Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening or whenever you're listening to this week's episode of Tree Talk, episode 179 with myself, Jack Neville, and Matt O'Callaghan of the Weekly Observer and Vale Star. An action-packed weekend to look forward to. I know I say that every single weekend, Matt, but we have two league finals to look forward to. We also have the 20s get their championship campaign underway next week, and we're going to look through some of the MVPs for the Limerick hurling team, so stay tuned for all that and more.
The impression again we get out with what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomás O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey. Carey leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
I suppose, how are you keeping today, Matt, this Thursday morning? It's cold.
I'm very good, Jack. And when I hear you talking about an action-packed weekend, it immediately strikes me. Thank God we're Limerick.
Yeah. I suppose the start here you would have thought maybe the hurlers would be in league final action, but it's actually the case for our two senior football teams, the men and ladies, and we will look into those games in depth as the podcast goes on. But I suppose we'll start by sending our condolences to the Holmes family on the passing of Dennis, who was laid to rest on Monday. A real Limerick GA man. I suppose he was the chairman of the football board for a long time, and there was a minute's silence on his behalf before the football game on Sunday, and a fitting tribute that the footballers got the job done. But again, our condolences to the family of Dennis Holmes.
Yeah, I agree totally with you, Jack, and a fitting tribute that we should be promoted within 24 hours of his sad passing, and to something that he would have loved to have seen, and Billy Lee had been in contact with him the week before, immediately after the game in Laois, and it gave the victory over Laois gave him a major boost. And yeah, you're right. He dedicated his dedication to the GAA, Jack, was second to none, and he fulfilled so many roles, from divisional chairman of the Limerick Football Board, chairman of the county board, representative of Munster Council, representative 5 years on the Central Council, and games and development officer, and he had a fantastic love for all things GA and all things Limerick. I think he encapsulated everything that was good about Limerick GA, and he won a county medal with Ula in 1979. He played football with Limerick. And I suppose, it's a double blow to the Holmes family coming so soon, following the sad passing of Sean, who was also deeply immersed in football. I suppose if Dennis Holmes, the fact is, I'd say that, football was probably his first love, coming from a football area of Limerick, but he wasted no opportunity to promote the game of football in Limerick, and he was very, very supportive at all times of those that were promoting the game and those that were involved in running teams and what have you. Like he was a mainstay for all of those, and I suppose it's testimony to what the man was able to contribute and what he contributed, that no matter at what level of the association that he served over the years, he won an awful lot of friends, won an awful lot of admirers, and was universally respected by everybody that came in touch with him. and his passing is he's a huge loss to the GAA, as he was a current county board officer. And of course, but most of all, Jack, he's the biggest loss to his wife and family, to whom we extend our deepest sympathy. And when Dennis Holmes was laid to rest in his native Ula on Monday, a titan of the GAA, not just in Limerick, but a titan of the association, was laid to rest, and may he rest in peace.
Yeah, may he rest in peace. I suppose today, Thursday, we have the Mackey and the Neville Cup finals. They've been changed to Bruff for anyone that was, I don't know if this podcast will go up before or afterwards, but I suppose best to look to all the kids competing in those competitions. It's, as we said before, it's kind of the first chance you get to see from these players, and so often you see it on the green and white on Twitter and Facebook. So often you see him in a green jersey years on the line. So the best look to all those today in Bruff.
But Jack, it's worth again saying the massive contribution that Cumann and Munskull and the green and white are making to the promotion of games in Limerick, when we have seen so many players that have transitioned from involvement in Cumann and Munskull to play senior for Limerick and play for Limerick at different levels in all codes. And you're right. I like yourself, I don't know what time the podcast is going out, but the finals were originally fixed to be in the Gaelic grounds on Thursday afternoon at 2 and at 3 o'clock, but they now have been switched to Bruff, as the Gaelic grounds has not been available. So both games are in Bruff this Thursday afternoon. And of course, you know, I think they're going to be used as an audition for young players, of course, to get onto the Limerick team that will play before the Munster Championship in the is it the Go Games? They play at half-time or between the games anyway. So, and next week, you know, there is no let up in the action in the schools. Next week we have the Sarsfield and Larkin Shields, which would be probably the football equivalent. So busy times in Cumann and Munskull, doing great work. Well done to them.
Yeah, great work is being done. And again, best wishes to all those competing today and all those competing next week in the hurling and football and camogie and ladies football finals. We do have big games to look forward to this weekend, Matt. And we'll start with Saturday and the clash of Limerick and Louth in Croke Park. It's not often the Limerick footballers get to Croke Park, so we'll take it every time we get. 4:45 throw-in Croke Park. Tipperary and Cavan are opening the curtains for us, I should say, the 2020 provincial champions. But I suppose before we get into the game, man, it's just great to have a game for the Limerick footballers in Croke Park. As I said, we don't get it too often. We were robbed of the chance in 2020 to have a league final. That makes it, this will be bridging a 9-year gap. But just to be on the road to Croker, we've been blessed with the hurlers to go to Dublin so much in recent years. Just there's a big buzz around Limerick football at the moment, and I suppose it'd be wrong to start anywhere else other than Billy Lee and the work he's done in the last 5 years. I was listening to an interview he did, I think it was for Clare in the championship in 2018, and just things were going wrong behind the scenes, and obviously a lot of players didn't commit, and just to see the turnaround is just incredible.
It's just incredible. He's done, and you know, we haven't been slow to flag it here in this medium. He's done an absolutely fantastic job, and I was talking to people in the week, and we were just talking about it. You know, in the circumstances that Billy Lee found himself in 2018, anybody but Billy Lee would have walked away.
Yeah.
And said to hell with it, you know. But no, his dedication to Limerick football was such that Billy Lee was never going to do that. But he's done a fantastic job, and he's built up a very, very, very strong squad. And we've said this before, and at the expense of being at the risk, of being repetitive. Like, you know, he has been confronted with challenge upon challenge upon challenge. And the most recent challenge was the loss of 3 key players at the start of this year. You know, and if that wasn't enough for the first game, he was confronted with a raft of injuries to add to it for the second game in Antrim. But his team and his squad, and of course the day in Antrim, you had the late withdrawal of Killian Fahy due to injury.
Yeah.
Like in his squad has withstood all that, and it's testimony to the quality and the depth that is in the squad at the moment. So it's a major boost, an absolutely major boost for Limerick football. And at the start of this year, Jack, you would have got very, very long odds. You'd have got long odds of Limerick being in the Division 3 final. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And you'd have got much longer odds of Limerick being in 2 finals in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Because the ladies will be in action within 24 hours when they play in the ladies final.
Yeah.
It gives you a sense of the state of health of men's and ladies football in the county, and the trajectory is definitely upward for both codes. Now, look, if you look at the record of the Limerick team, like this will be Billy Lee and his team going for a third title in 3 years, if I'm right. If you include the McGrath Cup.
Yeah.
You had the Division 4 champions in 2020 and an opportunity to become Division 3 champions in 2022. You know, if you look back at the record of Limerick football over the years, like we would take that all day.
Oh,
but certainly, but what is more important, is that the trajectory is very, very much, with regard to Limerick football, very, very much on an upward curve and going in the right direction. Now, it's a novel final against Louth. Jack, we haven't met Louth in a national final since 1887. Now, you were hardly around that year, Jack, were you?
No, it was a few months after it.
Yeah. Now, but Dennis Corbett of Commercials, the counties were represented by clubs. This is the little history lesson for today. Were represented by clubs in those days, and Commercials represented Limerick, and Louth were represented by Dundalk Young Irelands. And Dennis Corbett was the captain of Commercials, and they beat Louth, I think it was 1-3 to a point, in Clonskea in Dublin, to become the first ever All-Ireland senior football champions.
I was thinking as watching you said the year 1887. I was thinking it must have been that Ireland final.
Yeah. You know that the only county, Jack, that has never been beaten in an All-Ireland final, senior football final, is Limerick. They've played in 2 and they won in 2. Down and Donegal shared it with them until Down came a cropper to Cork in 2010 and Donegal came a cropper to Kerry. What year was Donegal beaten? 2014. So Limerick stand alone, only county to get to an All-Ireland football final, and they have a 100% record in football finals.
Well, if Down were there in 2010 and Donegal in 14, we're due an All-Ireland final, so maybe this could be the year. I suppose when you're talking about Billy, you have to mention the selectors' background teams like Shane Mcdonough, Shane Kelly, Morris Horn, even Brian Begley when he was there. Like, it doesn't come easy, but for a couple of players that have been there.
And I suppose mention Adrian O'Brien.
Yeah, Adrian O'Brien, yeah, as well. Sorry. Like, just anyone that has been involved since Billy came in. But there's been a couple of players there, I suppose, since the start of Billy's term. But there's 3 that have been there since 2013, since the last final. Donald Sullivan and Ian Corbett started that day against Offaly, and Dara Tracy came on that day. And I suppose not to single out those 3 lads, but just the commitment and drive and just leading by example. Those 3 were at it again at the weekend. Like,
you know, what service they have given to their county, you know, dedicated service over the years. And, you know, they were very, very much through the valley periods. You know, you must remember, Jack, that it is not very, very long ago, in successive years, we got 10 points in this year's Division 3. I think it was 2018 and 2019, 2 successive years. We got a total of 7 points in Division 4. We drew with London and we beat Waterford in 2018, and we beat London and we beat Waterford in 2019. And that was the sum total of our success.
Yeah.
And that gives you a sense of how far Limerick has come, how much work Billy Lee has put into it, where he has brought him from the basement of Division 4 to possibly, and we hope, come maybe 6 o'clock on Sunday evening, 6:15, Division 2 football next season. It's a phenomenal story, Jack.
It is, and I suppose when you say it like that, it's pretty much the same crop of players. Obviously, there's one or two, probably 3 or 4, I suppose, but it just goes down to the coaching that's been done. A lot of those players have been brought in at the start of these terms, 17, 18, 19, really, as young, but they've been coached into these top-class Division 2 footballers now. Like the subs bench even now is scandalous when you think about who, like the standard that Limerick were in 2 or 3 years ago. The players they have now to come off the bench, even Robbie Burke and Tommy Griffin at the weekend, both made scoring contributions off the bench. That's ever without Tommy Childs, Danny Neville, Seamus Flanagan, these kind of lads. Like, just is a real feel-good factor in Limerick football, and a real generation of players coming through and being coached properly, I think, is the main message. And same with Louth, really, Matt. They're back-to-back divisional, or I suppose they're going for back-to-back titles. They got promoted last year from Division 4. And when you talk about Mickey Hart and the impact he has made with Louth, you can say the same for Billy, that Billy is on that level now where you're talking with the best coaches in Ireland.
Absolutely, and he's pitting his wits now against one of the greatest managers that the game has ever seen, because certainly it was the influence of Mickey Hart that brought Tyrone to new places. He guided them to under 21 All-Ireland success, 3 All-Ireland senior successes, a National League, 9 Ulster titles. That's on indelibly written in Mickey Hart's CV, so it can't be taken from him. And certainly the type of influence that he had in Tyrone now, he's exacting that type of influence in Louth now as well. And you're right. Louth were in a poor place when Mickey Hart took over, and you've seen successive promotions now, and of course that in itself isn't unique. Counties have done that in the past, and and certainly life in Division 3 for Louth wasn't a bed of roses at the start, Jack, because they lost at home to Laois in the first round.
Yeah,
in Ardee, and Laois have subsequently been relegated. And then they drew with Longford in Longford. So a tally of 1 point from the first 2 games did not suggest that Louth were going to be contenders for promotion. And
no,
but Mickey Hart got it right, stuck with it, came to Limerick, got that win, and it was the start of 5 wins in a row, and they ended up top of the pile.
Yeah, you would say with 10 minutes to go against Limerick in third round, Louth were as good as relegated. They only had 1 point from 3 games. And that point against Longford, correct me if I'm wrong, was a very late score. I think, was it Samuel Roy kicked a very late point?
Yes.
On that game in UL, 114 to 112. Obviously, you want to win every final you're in. There's no two ways about it. But a little bit of extra motivation, I suppose, for Limerick, and a bit more pressure on Louth, who finished top of the table with 11 points, 1 ahead of Limerick. Limerick will feel like they let that game go. Louth will feel they deserve to win it over the course of the 60 minutes. So even though they're both promoted, like, both teams will be desperate to win the game.
Yeah, Jack, what we lauded after the first 2 games as being one of Limerick's really strong points, and that was their ability to close out games. And certainly in the first 2 games, when Longford came close to them in the finish, when Antrim came close to them in the finish, they found that extra gear to drive on and close out the game. It was the total converse in that game, because with less than 10 minutes to go, Limerick were leading by 5 points.
Yeah.
Now, I know that the conditions were horrendous,
A hurricane, as Graham Shine said the other
the
day.
same day in UL. And Billy Lee, speaking with Billy in the week, he was saying like that. There's going to be a lot of different scenarios. First of all, it's going to be Croke Park, and I suppose he said tongue in cheek, the weather is going to be better, and that wouldn't be hard for it, So.
Yeah.
But like it's an extra motivating factor for Limerick. But actually, in many ways, it proved a wake-up call to Limerick.
Yeah, it did.
Because the Jove comforters were out in droves after defeat to Louth, that I told you so, that Limerick weren't going to make it, this, that, or the other thing, So, and lo and behold, we went to Ockram, and Ockram has been a graveyard for many counties over the years. Louth found it very, very difficult for a long time there last Sunday, and Limerick saw out the game. They were down to 13 players at one stage and down to 14 towards the finish, but still saw out the game to win by 4 points, and to get their league campaign back on track. And then you had the loss to Westmeath, and you'd say to yourself, "This is it now." And at that stage we were going to Laois. It looked set up for Laois to make a late surge for the league. They had Limerick at home and Longford at home, 2 home games on the trot, which how that comes about, I don't know, but you know how I feel about that. I have activated your cough, Jack, because
I went for a laugh when the cough came out.
you're probably sick to the teeth of listening to it. But it was set up for Laois, but Limerick didn't read into that script. They went up and overturned Laois, and we all know the rest is history, and didn't beat Fermanagh. Like Westmeath were at a bogey team for Limerick. We haven't beaten them in this millennium. But Fermanagh were equally as much a bogey team as well. We've only beaten them once in 5 outings prior to last Sunday.
Yeah, well, make that 2 now, and a very, I suppose, very precious number 2.
Jack, we had a very, very poor record in Markovich Park until 2020. And when the boys' backs were to the wall to win Division 4, they went up there and did the job.
Yeah, and look, we'll have time after the league final to look back on Limerick's league as a whole, because the league isn't over yet. You want to finish on a high. What I will say is they don't do things easily. They always try to, I suppose, push the limit against. In 2020, they had the loss against Wexford, and then they had to beat Sligo. Last year, they lost against Offaly and had to beat Wicklow. This year, lose against Westmeath and have to in the last 2. But they got the job done, and we will look back at the league.
When the backs got to the wall, and we've said it time and time again, not good for the aging process for old fogies like me, but Yeah.
Well, look, they keep you on your toes. Prediction, Matt. Look, Louth are favourites. They did finish ahead of Limerick. They won the head-to-head meeting. But you mentioned all those circumstances that will be changed. Like, the conditions are going to be better. It won't be a 4G pitch. There won't be an excessive gale there, you'd imagine. Even the height crop arc will prevent all that. Bigger field. Limerick, I suppose, have a couple back since then, if you had to call it. Yeah,
well, what I'd say to you is, and I'll give you, you'll probably say it is a convoluted answer, or that is long-winded answer. 2010, Waterford were favourites. 2013, Offaly were favourites in the league finals in Croke Park. And on both occasions, the silverware ended up on Shannon's side. And it can happen again on Saturday.
It can happen. I'm going to go that it will happen. I think Limerick will win.
It will happen on Saturday. I believe that. I believe that Limerick. Well, of course, there's momentum with both sides. Make no mistake about it. It's going to be a battle of wits between Billy and Mickey, particularly going down the home straight. And as you mentioned, as you alluded to it there earlier, Jack, I think Limerick are probably in a better place than they have been for a number of years, in that they have people to come off the bench that can game change. As you said, you mentioned the like of Robbie Burke and the like of Tommy Griffin. the players like that. So, yeah, I think we're going to win it, Jack. And, happy days. 2 league titles in 3 years. Roll on Division 2 next season. And the dubs in the Gaelic round.
We can look forward to that Division 2 next week as well. But I'm just conscious that we've 25 minutes done there on the league final. The best wishes to Billy Lee and his side. And I suppose everyone to get out to Croke Park if you can. That first game, Cavan and Tip, is on a 2:30 if you want to get in for both games. But Limerick, the main event, quarter 5 in Croke Park. As I said, we don't get there too often for the football. So let's make the most of it. You mentioned there it could be a very memorable week for Limerick football. We have the ladies footballers in Division 4 final action the following day at 2:00 in Burr. Big difference here, Matt, is promotion is not guaranteed by reaching the league final. I think that's the big caveat with this final. Billy Lee's side are safe in the knowledge that they have Division 2 football next year. Graham Shine's side aren't. They play Offaly, who they played already in the league. I suppose there's so many ways you could look at it. Looking at the previous meeting, 3-4 to 1-6 winners were Limerick. Very hard to beat a team twice in the 1 year, and we've seen that be improved so often over the years.
Yeah, we've seen that, Jack. But the victory over Offaly comes with a little caveat. The caveat being that was on the same day as Louth and Limerick were in UL, and the conditions in Martinstown, the prevailing conditions, not the conditions of the pitch, the prevailing conditions. There was a horrendous wind and rain, driving rain there during most of that game. And actually, in that particular game, Jack, Limerick led by a goal at half-time, having played with the gale force wind, won 5 to 5 points. And when Offaly got a goal and a point within 10 minutes of the restart, it looked game, set and match. They'd gone ahead, they'd win advantage. Limerick were found difficulty in getting out of their half, and suddenly, lo and behold, Limerick got a couple of goals in quick succession. But what impressed me most that day, Jack, and it has impressed me during the league campaign without exception, and I've seen all 4 games, I've been present at 2, is the solidity of the defence. The defence has been very, 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 very solid. And I think that was brought home to us again in the semi-final against Fermanagh. Because Fermanagh had 2 very, if not 3, very, very serious forwards in Blahin Bogue, Emer Smith, and Sarah Britton. And you can throw in Laura Grew with those. Now, they caused Limerick serious problems in the opening in the opening exchanges of the game, but Limerick got on top of it, and it was Limerick's ability to stay in touch with Fermanagh during that game, and strike them when the opportunity came. And like when Graham Shine named his team named his squad at the start of the year, I suppose the striking thing about the squad, about the composition of the squad, was the number of the 2018 All-Ireland players that were back in the squad and that had been away for various reasons for the last 2 years. And I'm thinking of the like of Sarah O'Sullivan, Loretta Handy, Cathy Mee, who was absolutely immense against Fermanagh. You have Katrina Davis, Rebecca DeLee, Mairead Kavanagh. Absolutely, that type of experience, and they're bringing all that experience to bear. Like Mairead Kavanagh is in fantastic form. Like, she got 2 goals against Fermanagh. Very, very unlucky that she hadn't 2 more. And I think Graham Shine alluded to it in our conversation with him in the week. She could have ended with 4 goals had she had a bit more luck being on her side. So, like, the serious scoring forwards, Katrina Davis didn't start against Fermanagh, came on, made a huge impact, and then we had the introduction of Debbie O'Leary and Callan O'Leary. Sorry, Debbie Murphy and Callan O'Leary.
Look, there's...
And you mentioned there about the footballers, and the strength in depth, Graham Shine is very much going down the same road, Jack.
Yeah.
He's building a very, very strong squad. And like he has afforded opportunities to young players to get their chance. Like he gave debuts to Maeve O'Halloran, who was playing extremely well at left full back, has made that position her own. He gave a debut to Carol Bateman in goal against Carlow. We've seen a couple of very useful and very promising cameo appearances by an OD. We have seen Sarah Dillon coming on. Roisin Highland, if you look at the bench, who would have said that a player of the caliber and what she brings to the table of Katie Heelan would not be in the starting 15. Maybe she'll be selected for the starting 15 for Sunday. We don't know, but that I think in itself, Jack, is a testimony of the strength of the squad. Like Katie Heelan has been a fantastic player for the last 3 or 4 years. Great colleges player. With John the Baptist, won 2 All-Irelands in the 1 year. All-Ireland A, schools, ladies football, and All-Ireland Junior A. Absolutely phenomenal achievement.
Yeah, there's a huge pool of talent there in the squad, but the same can be said for Offaly, and they did push Limerick all the way that day. It was 3-4 to 1-6, and in those horrific conditions could have gone either way. Offaly were in Division 3 as recently as 2019 as well, which gives their pedigree. And I suppose there's huge pressure on both sides to try and get into that Division 3. It just gets that more competitive. Limerick have shown the last few years that they're on the precipice. They've reached a number of finals in a row and been beaten by a team that's invariably gone on to win the league. That you're hoping that this can be the year that when they get over the semi-final, they are that team to beat and can go all the way, because momentum has been building nicely. And even though there's a pressure on to beat the team you beat already and you've won all your games, there's huge momentum within Graham Shine's side.
Oh yeah, plus the fact that Offaly would have strengthened since that game, and that they would have a number of players back that were involved in the All-Ireland Camogie Clubs Championship. Most notably Mairead Daly, who, of course, they met in the 2015 final. You must remember that, Jack. And Offaly won that one, and Mairead Daly, I think, on that occasion got 3 goals. So we can see the kind of a threat that she poses. But I asked myself the question: does she pose much bigger threat than Emer Smith, of Blahin Bogue, of Fermanagh? And Sarah O'Sullivan coped very, very, very well with Emer Smith in the semi-final. Equally, as the game went on, Leah Coughlin had the measure of Blahin Bogue. So,
Graham Shine is a clever coach. He'll have all these permutations down. He'll know who's marking who. These players will be under no illusion of their job at hand. And you just think that with the talent at Limerick's disposal, if they can do their jobs that they're set to do, that they will be crowned Division 4 champions.
I think they will, Jack. And the one striking thing about it is, first of all, there is the resilience of this team to keep going and to the very finish. And that was tested to a certain extent by London in the opening game. It was very, very much tested by Offaly. Now, it wasn't tested by Carlow. And Graham Shine used the occasion, as I said, to give debuts and give a bit of game time to a raft of players. But it was again tested against Fermanagh. And Limerick passed with flying colours on all 3 occasions. And what has struck me about the Limerick team, and this is not a jaundiced view or a green-eyed view or anything like that. And I was saying it to Graham Shine in the week that the team is showing clear, measurable improvement game on game.
Yeah.
Which comes back to the point that you were making, Jack, about Graham Shine's coaching. And I honestly think that we're going to see another notch on Sunday. And I believe that will be probably good enough to get over Offaly.
Yeah, I suppose the best teams generally save their best for All-Ireland finals, that when the pressure is at its most, they can deliver. Now, look, the game is in Offaly, which, look, you can make what you want about that. Now, I know the Division 3 final between Roscommon and Wexford is on in Offaly, is on in Burr the same day. It's a double header. Now, the merits of it, I don't think it's very fair, but look, that's what you're dealing with. But if you were to call it, Matt, Offaly are at home, which would be a huge advantage just for travelling crowd, like, especially with Limerick and Dublin the day before, like, it is hard to ask people to go to Dublin and to Offaly in the same weekend. But if you were to call it, Matt, favourite Limerick to, I suppose, prove the fairest side right, or the underdogs come through at home?
Yeah, look, Jack, there's a player that we didn't mention at all, and she tugged out the last day, and absolutely, if you reflect back to 2018 and the performance that she put on in Croke Park was memorable. I'm talking about Niamh Ryan.
Yeah.
And Graham Shine kind of confirmed in the week that she's fully fit and was fully fit last weekend for the semi-final when she tugged out. So I think Graham is going to have a small bit of a dilemma when he comes to picking the team for Offaly, because Niamh Ryan would get into an awful lot of teams around the country as a first choice, and he has her and Katie Heelan, vastly experienced players. Does he continue to leave them on the bench, or does he start them? He has some very, very big calls before the team is announced on Friday.
Yeah, I suppose he's seen him in training, so he's seen a lot more than we do. But I suppose you kind of avoided my question there with a very, very valid. I suppose
it's not like me to avoid your questions, Jack. Repeat the question?
Who will win? Essentially, is what
Limerick.
I'm looking for. So it'll be a Limerick double by 4:00 on Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds good, doesn't it? We've been
spoiled.
Great. We've been spoiled for success.
Great. Does it sound too good to be true? Is what I'm asking myself. But if you look at both of them in as individuals and in isolation, there are compelling reasons as to why Limerick will win each one of them.
Yeah, but sure, look, finals are generally played by the teams that deserve to be there. You'd rarely get a team that doesn't deserve to be in a final to be in a final. So Louth on Saturday and Offaly are there on merit. Two tough games for Limerick, but
because we said last week, Jack, when we were reflecting on the semi-finals, that at the outset of the Little Ladies Football League Division 4, like, the perception, Jack, and out there was that Leitrim and Fermanagh were the two teams to beat.
Yeah.
Two of them have fallen by the wayside.
They were beaten by the better teams on the day, and that's just the way it goes. But please God, we'll be on next week looking back at two more pieces of silverware for Limerick football, one for the ladies, one for the men. As we said, Saturday afternoon, evening time, the men are on at 4:45 in Croke Park against Louth. And then on Sunday at 2:00 in Burr, it's turn to the ladies against Offaly in Division 4 final. So best of luck to both those sides. I want to look through. We had no hurling to look back on, but I want to talk about MVPs for the Limerick hurling team. But before we get that on hurling, I'm just going to put a graphic up here on the screen, Matt. It's the Limerick under-20 hurling squad for this year was announced by Darren Mullins on Tuesday, I think it was. Look at those, I suppose, 41 names, Matt. Where do you want to start?
Oh, Jack, I start with some statistics. I suppose the first statistic being that Limerick were beaten by a point in the Munster final last year. Very unlucky not to win it with the last gasp effort. 13 of the players involved that night are in that squad. And as you were saying to me off air, can we be even sure that all 13 of them will make the starting 15? If you look at 4 players there have had a taste of senior hurling. You've Adam English, you've Cathal O'Neill, you've Colin Coughlin, and you've Patrick O'Donovan. 4 players out there are fresh after winning All-Ireland senior colleges medals with Ardscoil Reach. You've Cian Scully, Shane O'Brien, Vince Harrington, and JJ Carey. And very, very interestingly, Jack, they could be up against 2 of their Ardscoil colleagues in Niall O'Farrell and David Kennedy, who are very likely to be on the Clare squad or on the Clare team.
Yeah.
But if you go back 3 years to 2019 when Limerick won the Munster final, Jack, Clare pushed them all the way in the Munster final.
Yeah.
So this looks a very, very, very strong team. But they've got to do the business next Wednesday night. Because just for the viewers or for the listeners, it's a sort of a new format to the Munster under-20 squad, or to the under-20 championship this year, in that over the years we have become accustomed to a straight knockout competition. It is no longer that the 6 counties of Munster have been divided into 2 groups of 3, with the top who will play in a round robin, with the top 2 teams going through to the semi-finals. Now Limerick are grouped with Clare and Cork, and you have Kerry, Waterford, and Tipperary on the other side. So it's going to be very, very tight, and the programme sees Limerick host Clare in the first round, which is an absolutely crucial game. Clare host Cork in 6 Mile Bridge in round 2. And in round 3, Jack, we go to Páirc Uí Chaoimh.
Yeah, I think, is it
And
2
like
days
Cork
after?
are All-Ireland champions for the last 2 years. So, like, you know, we can talk about the merits of the squad and the strength of the squad, and there isn't a doubt enough about it, about the strength of the squad, and about the experience that's in the squad. And a lot of those guys have 2 Munster minor medals on their mantelpieces.
Yeah.
You know, but it's anything but a gimme. And, you know, you can reflect back on, you know, which is, you can reflect back on how they fared as minors. But Jack, 'tis a very, very inexact science.
Yeah, like, that's not how it works. Like, it'll give you an indication.
It doesn't work. You're right.
Like, back in 2019, you would have picked out Cathal O'Neill. You would have said this fella is destined for greatness, and look, he's living up to that hype. But Colin Coughlin, in the meantime, Adam English, Pat Donovan, Ethan Hurley, all these boys have shown like that. Just some players develop at different paces. I just think that Limerick team is absolutely star-studded. You mentioned the 13 there last year. I think the 4 senior boys would be pretty much guaranteed their places. But outside of that, I think it's just a very, very talent-laden squad. Now, you mentioned Clare have their own talents, and we saw Pat Roddy.
Well, they would have Niall Farrell, and they'd have David Kennedy, and I think they've Shane Meehan as well, Patrick Crotty, they'd have Oisin Clune, you know.
Cian Galvin, like Clare are no walkovers, like in this competition, and we know what Cork are about. One thing, what we will say is Limerick play Clare next Wednesday, the 6th of April at 7 in the 2 Skellig grounds. When they play Cork, which is 2 days after the seniors play, you could be without Cathal O'Neill, Colin Coughlin, Adam English, Pat Donovan, because if you feature in the senior championship, you can't play 20s championship, which to me, I don't think it's really fair, Matt, in a way. Like, if you're good enough, you're old enough, but it shouldn't mean then you're too old for your own age group, if you get me.
Jack, it's bizarre.
Yeah.
It's bizarre, and the best example of it is that the finest footballer of this generation, possibly David Clifford, played little or no under 20 or 21 football with Kerry.
No, Sean Shea was the same. Never
Sean
played
O'Shea.
underage.
Jack, look, Why did you have to bring in a contentious point like that? You know what to annoy me.
You were in great form today with all the finals look forward to. I had to bring you down a peg or two.
Yeah, well, you certainly brought me down more than 2 pegs with that. Jack, there's only one word: bizarre.
Yeah, because like
ridiculous, downright stupid.
I think for the Limerick lads, Colin O'Neill, Colin Coughlin have a real big chance. Adam English as well playing against Cork at some stage. For Clare, Pat Crotty as well was starting for them during the league. He looks like another that will get burned, and it just doesn't really make sense to me, because we were talking about it off air. The Limerick teams from 15 and 17 that won All Ireland's under 21s. If you notice respect to the other players, if you took out Keane Lynch, Sean Finn, Diarmaid Burns, these kind of lads, Barry Nash was on the team, Peter Casey. If you take them out of the team, you probably weren't going to win All Ireland, and that's a medal you don't have when you're older. And when you look back and say, we could have won that now only for a contentious rule, for me, it just doesn't really make sense. And it's kind of, if a player is under 20, they're going to be the star for their under 20 team, but they might only get a few minutes here and there. Like, it'll halt their development as well, I think.
Well, of course it will, Jack. And I would just love to know if you have even the haziest idea of the thinking behind this nonsense.
I presume it comes down to player welfare, but
and burnout.
Yeah, but I mean, players know themselves, and I mean, if you're starting for your senior team at under 20s, I don't think your 20s manager is going to flog you, especially with a 2-day turnaround. But the way things are now, under 20 is so young, it's very rare you're going to have an under 20 starting for their inter-county team. For Limerick, maybe Keane Lynch, Kyle Hayes did it. Outside of that, I can't really think of many more. Maybe Mark Coleman for Cork, Tony Kelly for Clare, these kind of boys. But like, it doesn't really happen very often. It happens to the special players. Like you mentioned, David Clifford, the best footballer in the country, never played with his own 20s team. And well, I presume he doesn't mind. It would have been a big miss, because he would have come up with those players. Like you mentioned, this current team, just say Colin O'Neill, for example, he was on that 2019 team, was joint captain for the final when Mike Keane was injured. He'd love to play with those players again, and it could be low for him. But look, I'll get annoyed as well as you if we talk about it too much.
You will, Jack, because it opens up a much bigger and more fundamental issue. Is that the and you've had me saying this time out of mind, and I blame the clubs, Jack.
Yeah.
Now, strange as may be seen, because they've seceded all the power to Croke Park. And we've these high-powered committees bringing in recommendations, putting them to Congress, and being voted through. What we should revert back. The clubs should insist that we revert back to the club. This thing of the primacy of the club that's enshrined in the charter of the association is only codswallop. And because it in reality it's not in practice. I'm around long enough to remember the day when all changes, Jack, came through the clubs. They sent it to their divisional board if there was divisional boards in the county. It subsequently went to the county board and subsequently to Congress. And the club that sponsored it in Congress.
Yeah, look, you make a point. I think a lot of rules now are just made in...
Until the clubs claim back the association from bureaucrats, we're going to have this nonsense.
Yeah, I think a lot of rules are made, and they're just made, and you're just told about it. Whereas the point you're saying that they have to be passed through clubs, I don't think any clubs would have agreed with it, to be honest with you. But look, that's above our heads. There's nothing we can do about it. But look,
well, when anyone complains to me about it, that's my stock answer for them.
Yeah, and you make a point.
If you look at the way that the power of the club is being clawed away, being gnawed away bit by bit, like one of the great things of conventions every year was the election of officers. That's nearly going out the window now, because the officers are appointed by Croke Park. Children's officer, county development officer, county secretary, all Croke Park appointees, clubs no say.
Yeah. Yeah, look, if you drive yourself mad trying to wrap your head around it. But
you should, look, Jack, you wouldn't sleep for a month if you started thinking about it.
Coming back to the 20s, just on the Munster Championship, like looking at that squad, they have a huge opportunity for silverware, but like again, huge challenge with Clare and Cork. But I'll just throw it up there again. Like when you look through the names there, Matt, ever outside, like there's players there now that I suppose people that don't really watch much won't have ever heard about, that they can really look forward to seeing playing. I know, like Vince Harrington for me was one. I saw him minor. I thought he was excellent at fullback. I'd like to see him play at that grade. Shane O'Brien is another that's on the lips of a lot of people. Like Rowan Lyons was an all-star when he was a minor. I suppose
Yes.
Simone Lean, he's gone under the radar a bit. I think Chris Thomas is one of the best defenders in the county already. His teammate Keena Donovan, like it looks to be getting as good as his brother Dara. Like Fergal O'Connor for Effin is another one. Evan O'Leary was another one then for Ardscoil Reid.
Yeah, Jack, not cutting across you, we should have said actually there's 5 Ardscoil because Evan O'Leary is another one, you know.
Yeah, I didn't want to cut across your time, but I know you know yourself. Like even Barry Duff and Brian O'Mara from Munger St. Paul's, I saw them a lot last year. Like 2 excellent players. Aidan O'Connor for Ballybrown has been shooting the lights out for Ballybrown in senior for 2 years. He was probably UL's go-to man, and they had Adam English, Pat Crotty, and Colin Neal in the forward line. Like,
Yeah.
like you don't want to get your head yourself, Matt, but there's definitely an opportunity there for these guys to, I suppose, go on and do what the 2015, 2017 teams are. And you don't want to put pressure on them, but it's there.
But Jack, you take 2 more players there. Take Adam Fitzgerald from Temple Glanton, captain and star of the Colashta Ida August Joseph team that won the college's E-final 2 weeks ago. Take David Fitzgerald of Kildimo Palace Kenry, star of Salesian College's team, the Salesian College team that won the D final. You know, yeah. Look, it's a very, very strong team, but you know,
you'll be disappointed if you don't.
That the bizarre spectre is hanging over it, that you could be losing key players.
Yeah, if you have a full contingent, again, not to pressure them, there's no reason why they can't reach a Munster final at the least.
Yes.
Because you'll be thinking, if you beat one of Cork or Clare, the other team, even if you lose the other team, they're beating the team that you beat. So, look, 7 o'clock next Wednesday, 6th of April, 2 Skellig Crowns, Limerick versus Clare. They'll have a full contingent, unless John Kiley is telling lads to rest. I don't think it's going to happen. So the best luck to Darren Mullins and his side. Should be a very good game. We've spoken about the merits of Clare, but we'll be fancying a Limerick victory on this medium anyway. Before we finish, Matt, I mentioned throughout, just I know we delve a lot into the games that have happened, but just something different. Maybe it could become a weekly thing where we're looking at just the top 5. For this week, I just said to you, Limerick's, I suppose, most valuable players. And I don't mean it the best players. If you were picking 10 best players in the country, how many Limerick lads? What I was going for is who's the kind of most important to the team and how they operate. I asked for 5. I don't know if you did them in order of 1 to 5 or just 5 names. If you would just throw out one name there, and I'll see if I have them on my list.
Yeah, I presume you'll have the first one anyway, Nikki Quinn.
Yeah, I had Nikki down on my team, and I suppose the roles of the goalie is only starting to kind of become more important to the general public. But I suppose Nikki has been there for, this is his 13th season. I think since 2010. Like, I'll let you talk about it more. We'll definitely do a Quaid podcast one day.
How long have you, Jack?
Yeah, we're definitely borderline, but like
as near as it's humanly possible to the perfect goalkeeper. You know, whether it's shot stopping, organising his defence, his puck out, his distribution, he's got it all, Jack.
Yeah,
you know, and cool as a cucumber back there in the last line of defence. You know, absolutely indispensable.
Yeah, I could say something now to annoy you about All Stars, but I think I'll leave it off. But
no, you don't, please.
Yeah, like just it's madness. The amount of I was so Stephen Cluxton is the same. He's up there with Cluxton in terms of importance to All Ireland winning teams. And just
absolutely.
look past. I think
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. Absolutely. The contribution of Nikki Quinn is just simply phenomenal.
The thing with Nikki Quinn, I think,
don't go to any of the All-Stars, Jack, please.
He suffers in a way because of his reliability. So, like, you don't notice him doing all the good things because it just happens every game.
It does.
And there's never bad things to talk about. So
he does it. He makes it look routine, you know.
Yeah, that's Quaid is one anyway. I'll give you. I had Keane Lynch on my list. I think it's fairly self-explanatory, but I do think there's a huge gap there. 11 when he's not there. I know when Kyle was there, it was just a different kind of game plan. But even for NUIG, for Patrick Swell, for Limerick, obviously, like just he does things that no one else can do. He sees things that no one else can do. He's the best hurler in the country, bar none, I think.
No question about it. And then I have people saying that, you know, he didn't do this and he didn't do that with NUIG. I thought, particularly in the final, before he was bizarrely sent off, and I'm using that word copiously today, but I thought he'd made a huge contribution. You see, a lot of people out there tend to judge people on judge players on their final score tally.
Yeah.
Which is not a great metric, if you like. Certainly because, like, see the contribution Keane Lynch made in the All-Ireland and the setting up of the goals, and like Keane Lynch is a creator. He creates scores. He makes things happen. And certainly I agree totally with Keane Lynch.
Yeah, I think for anyone that watches basketball, I don't know if you do, LeBron James has gone into second on the all-time scoring list, but he's first and foremost a facilitator, and a bit like Keane Lynch, he wants to let others free, but if the score is on and he needs to take it, he'll take it. Just can do it all. Like,
sorry, I missed that now.
LeBron James is a basketball player. He is gone into second in the all-time scoring charts in the NBA, but he himself would say first and foremost he is a facilitator. And I think Lynch is like that, can do it either way. Like, he set up 2-5 in the first half at Ireland.
Yeah.
And got a point. And then got 5 points himself in the
ended up with 6. Was it 5 or 6 points in the final?
6. So he was, if he took his half in either half, he'd be man the match regardless. Now, you know, Peter Casey will look at that. I don't know if you've Peter Casey in your list. I didn't put him in my list, but I think the league has really shown how valuable Peter Casey is to this team as well.
Absolutely.
I don't have my list because we didn't see him play, but like just the void that's there from Peter hasn't really been filled. We'll go on to
of course, we didn't have to wait for the league to realise how valuable he is.
Yeah, but I suppose it just rubber stamped it. Because I suppose he was in and out of the team. We call it spade a spade. From 17 to 20, started in 17, did in 18, did in 19. Started the start of 2020, but then Flanagan came back in. So I think 2021 was really his year to say, yeah, that 15 jersey is mine, regardless of who's available. But your third person on that list,
Barry Nash.
Yeah, I don't have Barry on my list. He was on my. They were all shortlisted because they're all exceptionally good. But why did you pick Barry, Will Sa?
Well, we knew about his versatility. Barry started off life as a forward, and a very, very good one. He transitioned to half-back. He transitioned to the full-back line, left full-back. He transitioned to right full-back. He was captain of the Limerick team during the Munster Senior Cup. I thought he displayed extraordinary leadership qualities. And he certainly giving John Kiley quite a headache, but he might ease his headache in some ways, in that the competition for the Limerick full back line is incredible. When you look at Sean Finn, Dan Morrissey and Barry Nash, the three men in situ, and with Mikey Casey and Richie English breathing down their neck.
He's a bit like a Swiss Army knife.
You could safely vacate Barry Nash and move him up the field to any position, literally.
Yeah, I think
Barry Nash is a very, 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 very good hurler.
yeah,
And very, very, very adaptable. And, I think Barry Nash is invaluable because of what he brings. And the versatility he brings. And you know something, Jack? You see players, and I've seen a number of players over the years that have suffered because of their versatility.
Yeah.
Barry Nash hasn't.
He hasn't. And I think one thing about him in the corner is he's a corner forward's worst nightmare, because not only is he a brilliant defender, he always wants to get forward, and it's your job. Like, if a cornerback scores, everyone knows who's marking him, whether he's 5 inches away from him or 15 or like 50 yards away from him. Everyone knows that's your man that's gone. So I think having him back there is luxury. But yeah, you mentioned that there. I think we'll see Barry away from the corner this year. I think there'll be a lot of rejigging, but we'll look into that as time goes on. Number 3 on my list here, I didn't do it in order, was William Mcdonough. I don't know if he's on yours, but is he on yours?
Yes.
For me, he just sets the tone from the throw-in. Like, he's the first man you see on the field. And I think his importance is shown against the big teams. Like Jamie Byrne in the All-Ireland final 2020, non-existent 2021 semi-final was the same. Dara Fitz last year in the final. Like, we see how good Dara Fitz is now. We saw how good he was in Limerick when Will wasn't on the field. He just sets the tone, huge work rate, brilliant player, can take a point, physicality, work rate, everything. Just a Rolls Royce midfielder.
Yeah, I agree totally with everything you've said, Jack. An absolute Rolls Royce of a midfielder. Deservedly got his first All-Star. Should certainly have a second All-Star.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, like the 2020. I didn't give him an All-Star in 2020 because the question you asked was who did I think would get it, and because of the politics of it and various other things and accommodating players that goes on with this thing. I know that he would miss out, but if it was strictly and solely on merit, Jack, William Mcdonough would have been in all day,
Yeah.
But his contribution is huge. A powerful man, as you said, meets some of the best midfielders. And you mentioned the 2 games against Jamie Byrne and the game against Dara Fitzgibbon. William Mcdonough, he's done it. He's done it. And his contribution to the team and is just invaluable. Just absolutely invaluable, because we're talking about the nub of this conversation, Jack, is I suppose importance and value to the team, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
because
exactly.
we all know what the Dermot Burns and the Declan Hannons of this world and what they give you, But I would have William Mcdonough definitely right up there as one of the key players.
Yeah, that's Keane Lynch, Nikki Quinn, Will Donoghue, and Barry Nash. You've the 4 of them. I have 3. Who's your 5th?
Seamus Flanagan in good form.
I don't have him there again, chartless. But why Seamus Flanagan?
Yeah, because when Seamus Flanagan is in good form, he has the capacity to upset defences. He's very athletic, very, very mobile. Tends to cause all sorts of problems for fullbacks, and fullback is a crucial position. Most notably in last year's All-Ireland final, Rob Downey was on a high until he came into the All-Ireland final. But we've seen it in different games. His goal in the Munster final.
Yeah.
In terms of value to the team, I would have Seamus Flanagan as one of the invaluable players. You see, basically what we're talking about is kind of valuable players that are unsung heroes, isn't it?
Yeah, to an extent. I have another hurler here in mind.
We all know what Dermot Burns, we all know what Declan Hannon, we all know what Garrod Hegarty,
Kyle Hayes, all these. Yeah, no, look, it's not about talent.
And Gillane are going to bring to the table, But I think I would have Seamus Flanagan down as a very, very valuable player.
Yeah, I think it's important to note, like, we're not saying any player is better than the next player. That Limerick
No,
squad
no.
is
It's not
absolutely
a
laden with
comparison
talent.
with other players. No.
It's just like the five, like, you could have, like, our list is different. I have two different players to Matt. Like, the next fella might have five completely different players. Like, but it's just something different. I had Declan Hannon on my list. I think just as a leader first and foremost. He might get on the ball as much as you'd like. I know some of the lads now I'm friendly with don't, I suppose, appreciate what he's doing, but Limerick like to drop the halfbacks or half forwards back a lot, and Declan Hannon is able to ping ball over that. He's just a brilliant striker of the ball. He can get scores and he wants. He scored in the 2 All-Ireland finals. He can break the lines. He's a brilliant reader of the ball. If the fullback needs a hand, Declan Hannon is there to stop the ball going. I just think he's the perfect number 6. Himself and Ty de Burka they've essentially stopped a sweeper because they can be a centre back and a sweeper all in one. And I think like it allows you to have 6 forwards and you have Declan Hannon there. That's why I mean, and Garrod Hegarty, just energy, work rate, the sweetest skills. Like he scored 7 points from playing an All-Ireland final. Hurler of the year. He sets the tone like Garrod Hegarty for the forwards, I think. Huge physical presence, can win puckouts, can win it short, can win it medium, he can win it anyway. I just think he's a brilliant player. I think he's in the top 5 hurdles.
Jack, when you talk about the 5 most valuable players, you could literally put the names into a hat and pull them out.
Yeah.
And there'd be an argument, and the way I looked at it was players that, you know, possibly the lesser lights. I stayed away from the Declan Hannons and the Dermot Burnses of this world and the Garrod Hegartys and the Aaron Gillans, as I said, you know.
Yeah.
But I just concur totally with what you said about Declan Hannon, the most underappreciated hurler, I'd say, of his generation. Because he simply makes it look as if it's normal what he's doing. Some of the things he does are totally off the charts. His anticipation, his covering, his striking. You know, I'm absolutely convinced we could have won 4 in a row hadn't Declan Hannon gone off the field against Kilkenny.
Yeah,
I've said that because certainly with Kilkenny back to a point and a couple of times, and Declan Hannon would have had the leadership qualities to conjure up something that we would have got over the line on that one.
Yeah, like it's good.
You'd say to yourself, how does your centre back, you know, solve a problem where you need scores? But he does it.
Yeah, I think some of my thinking was, if I was opposition, who don't I want to see? Who are the lads you're saying, okay, Keane Lynch is missing, we have a chance here, Declan Hannon is out, you know, Hegarty is gone. That's the way kind of I was like, you'd hate to see, or like if you were in midfield, or if you were anywhere in the middle third and you saw Hannon, Donoghue, Hegarty, Lynch, any of these boys, Hayes or Burns, Morrissey, even Colin O'Neill, you're thinking, I'm in for a long day here. That's kind of the way I was going about it. Look, if people have difference of opinions, they're more than welcome to comment below and we can look at them next week or give your opinions on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, wherever. It's just something different to come away from looking at games. It's something
I have no doubt, Jack, if we were live today, we would have a very animated discussion on it and reaction.
We're leaving the live for a few weeks because it's just been the internet has been hairy the last 2 weeks. But I'm sure we'll be live again soon. Maybe next Thursday to look back on
the Gremlins of Ballysteen.
Yeah, well, I think it's more in Glenroe, to be honest. But yeah, like we've nearly an hour and 10 on the clock there. Look, we finished with hurling, but it's a football weekend, whatever way you look at it. Senior men's are in Division 3 league final action. The senior women's are in Division 4 league final action. And next Wednesday, then we have the turn of the under-20s, and before we know it, the provincial championships will be starting. So it's all go for the next few months, and thank God for that, Matt, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's just absolutely fantastic, and you know, I remember the days not too long ago, you know, when we didn't have this level of involvement at concluding stages of competition and being in the running for winning competitions. So, in many ways, it's a new space for an awful lot of people, but. Yeah. There is no doubt at all about it, Jack. But it's a golden era for Limerick GA and across the four codes. Like, even if you go back to the Camogie winning 3 All-Irelands in 2014, there are some counties there who haven't won it in their lifetime, so we've an awful lot to be thankful for. 3 senior All-Irelands in 4 years. 2 under-21 titles in the last 10 years, 4 Munster minor titles, ladies football All-Ireland, senior footballers winning, Division 4, winning the McGrath Cup, possibly winning Division 3. And then we had the performances of the schools this year, not to mention the performances of UL and the various third-level colleges. Like, when you roll it all into one, the success of Na Piarsaigh in the club's championship, and Kilmallock, who won a club's championship as well. So there is so much happening, Jack, and the beauty about it is there's so much positive happening.
Yeah, it's
like for so long, Limerick was dogged by negativity and this, that, and the next thing. Thanks be to God. It's hopefully all behind us, never to come back.
Yeah, hopefully. It's a good thing we weren't doing this podcast 10 or 15 years ago, because we had a lot more bleak. But yeah, 2 league finals to look forward to this week. Start of the under-20 Munster Championship. We'll have the 20s footballers throughout the week after that, and then you're into minors, and before you know it, the senior championships are back. So look, it's brilliant to look forward to.
When I was listing the successes there, I omitted the success of another member of the GA family, Martina McMahon, who has absolutely cleaned the boards in handball, absolutely both at national and at world level. And
success in Limerick over the last 10 years has just been brilliant. Colin Ryan, the Puck Fada as well, another GA run competition. So
winning the All-Ireland Puck Fada,
Yeah, so look,
if you were from another county, you'd be trying to say, would they let something for someone else, Yeah,
well, look, we'll take it as long as we can have it. I hope everyone enjoyed listening to it whenever or wherever you listen to talk. Again, many thanks to you, Matt, and we will be back, I suppose, next week, probably after the 20s, to go back and hopefully looking back on 2 league wins and a good start to the Munster Championship. But until then, Matt, thank you very much, and we'll talk soon.
You're welcome, Jack.
The impression again we get out with what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tommaso Sheahy, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word court today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time